Chapter 189. Because of the cultivation realm, although Xianxia found the various cultivation methods suitable for the foundation stage in the scripture's pavilion, except for the fire attribute, Xianxia has not yet built the foundation for the other attributes, and he cannot incorporate these higher-level cultivation methods into the yin-yang 5 elements secret art. This has become the weakest link of Xianxia now, because the yin-yang 5 elements secret art has not been fully built, resulting in many things that cannot be used, even including the heavenly spirit treasure refining secret art and the earth fiend sacrificial formation secret art. Now that he has been apprenticed, Xianxia has seen the master he has been thinking about day and night. He has become her apprentice again, and he has successfully built the fierce sun courtyard. His long-cherished wish has been achieved, and it has become an urgent matter to improve his cultivation base. Strictly speaking, Xianxia's fire attribute foundation stage was only the 4th fire attribute. The acquisition of the earth core fire greatly improved Xianxia's cultivation base on the 4th fire attribute. In the previous life, Xianxia did not strictly distinguish the yin and yang attributes when he was cultivating, but now because of the yin-yang 5 elements secret art, he has to distinguish them clearly. That is to say, if the 3rd fire attribute spirit power is added, Xianxia has 9 attributes of spirit power that need to improve his cultivation base and reach the foundation stage. After the first foundation stage in Elder Wu's manner, Xianxia was basically consolidating the foundation stage. Because he was afraid that Elder Wu Xiong would discover the yin-yang 5 elements secret art in his body, he had not cultivated it. So during the period from the foundation stage to the refining of the heaven-seizing pill, the yin-yang 5 elements secret art did not progress and remained at the level of the 9th layer of qi refining. However, Xianxia knew that each of his own attributes of spirit power foundation stage could drive the other attributes of spirit power to a small extent. That is to say, as long as he has 1 or 2 more kinds of spirit power foundation stage, then the remaining yin-yang 5 element spirit power can reach the peak of qi refining. At that time, as long as he refines enough foundation stage pills for himself, it would not be a problem for him to build the foundation stage. Now for Xianxia, the simplest thing was to improve the 3rd fire spirit power. Whether it was experience or external things, it was easygoing. In his previous life, he was a fire cultivator, and the sun true fire was of the 3rd fire attribute. These two together could quickly make Xianxia's 3rd fire spirit power build the foundation. Of course, with Xianxia's current cultivation, it was impossible for him to absorb and refine the true sun fire. In his previous life, when Xianxia was in the middle stage of the gold core realm, he had obtained the sun's true fire by chance. The process of absorbing the sun's true fire was also very dangerous, and he had almost lost his life. However, the success of the absorption was also extremely shocking. Not only did it help Xianxia's nascent soul ascend, but it also allowed Xianxia to enter the immortal world. The true fire of the sun was extremely precious, and Helian Yun had most likely obtained it by refining pills for others. But now, it had actually helped Xianxia. Although Xianxia could not absorb the sun true fire at the moment, the profound spirit furnace could. As long as the absorption is successful, the grade of the profound spirit furnace will also be greatly improved. After staying in the scriptures pavilion for a whole month, Xianxia stopped going to the scriptures pavilion to read. During this period, he also made enough preparations before greeting his master and other friends, and then began to retreat to absorb the true fire of the sun. The small oil lamp that Wu Xiong used to seal the true fire of the sun, Xianxia carefully took it out of the merit ring. When it was placed in front of him, no one would believe that such a small oil lamp that was flickering and about to be extinguished actually had the fire of the true fire of the sun. The process of absorption was very similar to that of absorbing the earth core fire, but there were also some differences. After all, the level of the true fire of the sun was 2 grades higher than that of the earth core fire, and the 5th grade fire seed was a rare flame even in the spiritual world. The power was without waves, and with a little carelessness, even Xianxia's profound spirit furnace would disappear without a trace. Fortunately, Xianxia had the true fire of the sun in his previous life. It was estimated that no one in the spiritual world could match him in familiarity with this kind of flame. After carefully refining the profound spirit furnace with the celestial spirit treasure refining secret art again, he used the universe treasure raising secret art to maintain it again, and then slowly controlled the profound spirit furnace to approach the small flame. A little bit, Xianxia just approached the moment, controlling the profound spirit furnace to extract a little bit of the true fire of the sun from the flame. This was even more subtle than the one extracted when Xianxia absorbed the earth core fire before, not even 1/10 of it at that time. With just this little flame, Xianxia could feel that the profound spirit furnace was surrounded by flames. In an instant, the temperature of the profound spirit furnace was raised to a level that people could not touch. The entire furnace body of the profound spirit furnace became extremely hot, as if the whole furnace would melt in the next moment. This was the most dangerous time. If the fire could not be controlled, the profound spirit furnace would be burned alive. Xianxia was already prepared. He took out the cyan crystal profound gold box that had been prepared for a long time and carefully placed it in the profound spirit furnace. Yes, Xianxia was planning to absorb the true fire of the sun, take the opportunity to refine the cyan crystal profound gold and improve the material of the profound spirit furnace by the way. The cyan crystal profound gold was not something that could be refined by ordinary flames. Even if it was the true fire of the sun, if it was not controlled by people, it would take enough fire and time to refine it. Now a little flame could be absorbed by the cyan crystal profound gold for most of the heat, but it allowed the profound spirit furnace to take the opportunity to absorb the fire. Xianxia had no way to refine such a large piece of cyan crystal profound gold before. Although the earth core fire was blazing, it was only suitable for refining medicinal materials and earthy things. There was no way to refine this high-level cyan crystal profound gold. Sure enough, Xianxia's method worked. The temperature of the profound spirit furnace no longer rose, and even became cooler and cooler. However, the cyan crystal profound gold box in the profound spirit furnace began to slowly change. The rust wrapped on the outside was peeling off little by little. Those were the impurities of the cyan crystal profound gold. The old mountain god could not purify it and left it on the box, so it formed rust. Now, these impurities were slowly being removed under the burning of the true fire of the sun. After the little flame was absorbed by the profound spirit furnace, Xianxia controlled the profound spirit furnace to peel off a little from the flame, and so on. The profound spirit furnace absorbed more and more flames, and the box made of cyan crystal profound gold gradually changed color. After a batch of impurities was precipitated, the box slowly turned red, and the heat was amazing, but the shape of the box did not change at all. This characteristic of the cyan crystal profound gold was most suitable for refining high-temperature pill furnaces and the flying sword of the fire cultivator. It was just right for the profound spirit furnace. Of course, with such a large piece, Xianxia could not use it all. He only needed to use 1/10 of it, and it was enough to make the profound spirit furnace be reborn. In this boring cycle, the flame on the oil lamp that sealed the true fire of the sun became smaller and smaller, and finally disappeared completely. Chapter 190. Every absorption of the flame, for Xianxia, was a process of tempering the third fire spirit power in his body. The flame of the true sun fire was too fierce, and Xianxia did not dare to absorb the flame into his body now. But this did not prevent Xianxia from sending his spirit power to the flame of the true sun fire to burn, and then take it back into his body. After the spirit power burned by the true sun fire, at least 90% was consumed, but the remaining trace was not known how much purer it was. For every slight absorption, Xianxia would lose 90% of the third fire spirit power. Fortunately, the spiritual power here was rich, and Xianxia had enough profound yang fruit to supplement it, so he would soon be able to recover before the next absorption of the true sun fire. Every inch would undergo such a tempering, and Xianxia's third fire spirit power was simply being tempered by the true sun fire. After the recovery of the spirit power, it would soon be consumed by the burning, and then it would be replenished, and then it would be tempered again. After being burned by the true sun fire, the remaining essence of the spirit power was getting more and more, And this part of the most essence of the third fire spirit power was even purer than after being tempered by the yin and yang reverse 5 elements. The quality of the spirit power was getting higher and higher, and the spirit power of the third fire attribute was also getting higher and higher. When the third fire spirit power was burned by the true sun fire, it finally reached the critical point of eruption. For Xianxia, there was no such thing as the state of mind cultivation could not keep up. As long as the spirit power cultivation base was raised enough, he could easily overcome various bottlenecks. In the fierce sun courtyard, the spiritual power of the earth vein seemed to be suddenly attracted by something and madly gathered towards the hut where Xianxia was in seclusion. The spiritual power of the earth vein, which was enough for several Yuanying stage masters to cultivate at the same time, was suddenly cut off, and all the spiritual power poured into the body of Xianxia. The people in the fierce sun courtyard immediately noticed the abnormality here. This situation was not unfamiliar to everyone. It was clearly a phenomenon caused by someone communicating with heaven and earth when he built the foundation. After a while, it returned to normal. However, no one could figure out what was going on. Wasn't Xianxia in the foundation stage? How could there be such a scene of communicating with heaven and earth? After building the foundation, the body would naturally absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Could it be that Xianxia destroyed his own cultivation and built the foundation again? Everyone was suspicious, but no one rashly rushed in to disturb Xianxia. Everyone understood the taboo of seclusion. What they were most afraid of was someone suddenly rushing in and disturbing them. Moreover, this situation was not a bad thing. Either Xianxia had made some breakthrough again, and that was why this situation was triggered. Third Fire Spirit Power Foundation establishment, Xianxia's cultivation was upgraded to a whole level. When he built the foundation in Elder Wu Xiong's villa, he relied on the earth core fire and the medicinal power of the best emerald jade Ganoderma, but now it was different. This time, he would rely on the sun true fire to crazily burn and temper the third fire spirit power before he built the foundation. The quality of the third fire spirit power was much purer than all other spirit powers, and it immediately occupied the upper hand among the yin and yang 5 elements spirit power. The other yin and yang 5 elements spirit power, in the process of communicating with heaven and earth, madly absorbed the spiritual energy of the earth vein. In a short period of time, enough spiritual power was absorbed, and the overall yin and yang 5 elements secret art was upgraded to a level, reaching the peak state of the 10th layer of qi refining. In the sea of consciousness, the long river of blood was darker. The surrounding space seemed to have expanded again in the process of building the foundation, and it had abruptly increased by at least 50%. Now it looked like it was half the size of the fierce sun courtyard. Perhaps it was because Xianxia only had the foundation of fire attribute spirit power. In the sea of consciousness, it was divided into very clear levels. The top was a burning sun phantom, and below the long river of blood, there was a long river of dark red flames, which was clearly the embodiment of the sun true fire and the earth core fire. In the previous life, even if Xianxia had the sun true fire, it was not reflected in the sea of consciousness. Now he had not collected the sun true fire, but there was already this mark in the sea of consciousness. In addition to the large size of the sea of consciousness and the long river of blood that could be turned into killing intent, other things could not be seen. At this time, the process of the profound spirit furnace absorbing the sun true fire was not completed, and Xianxia did not dare to stop the process of absorption. After building the foundation, the third fire spirit power was more abundant, and each time the extraction of the sun true fire changed from a little bit to a trace, and the speed was almost 10 times faster. When the flame on the oil lamp completely disappeared, there was already a bright golden sun true fire in the profound spirit furnace. This group of sun true fire and the earth core fire were in 2 different directions, but Xianxia only needed to move, which one he wanted to move, he could move it like a finger. In the profound spirit furnace, the flame of the complete sun true fire began to burn the cyan crystal profound gold in the furnace. Under the control of Xianxia, the square cyan crystal profound gold box, which had not changed for several months, had completely changed its shape and became a soft thing like dough. The profound spirit furnace was now connected with Yang Chen's mind. With just a little thought, the melted cyan crystal profound gold began to slowly divide into two halves. A large group quickly flew out of the furnace and began to cool down slowly, and the remaining small group began to melt more and more, and began to integrate into the inside of the profound spirit furnace. The spiritual awareness provided by the powerful sea of consciousness was enough to make Yang Chen understand every place inside the profound spirit furnace thoroughly. The unstable places brought by the low-level materials were replaced by the cyan crystal profound gold, and then those original low-level materials, under the burning of the sun true fire, slowly precipitated out. This time, the absorption of the sun true fire was actually a process of absorbing the flame, refining the cyan crystal profound gold, and sacrificially refining the profound spirit furnace. Up to now, there was only one last step left. When the cyan crystal profound gold was completely integrated into the profound spirit furnace, the overall color of the profound spirit furnace began to change, turning into the light cyan color of the cyan crystal profound gold. Looking from a distance, the pill furnace did not seem to be metal, but became porcelain. Yang Chen then used the heavenly spirit treasure refining secret art and the earth fiend's sacrificial formation secret art to refine it in turn. At this point, the sacrificial refining of the profound spirit furnace was completely completed. The combination of the sun true fire and the cyan crystal profound gold, one was a 5th grade fire seed, and the other was the best refining material in the mortal world. Even if it was any one of them, it could make the profound spirit furnace be reborn. Now the power of the combination was almost doubled. At this moment, the profound spirit furnace was no less than the purple alchemy furnace used by Deng Ya. It just so happens that such a profound spirit furnace can be used to refine the 3rd grade medicinal pill, right? Yang Chen looked at the ceramic-like pill furnace in his hand with satisfaction and smiled slightly. The 3rd grade foundation building pill can make all my spiritual power build the foundation. Chapter 191. The continuous upgrade of the profound spirit furnace made Yang Chen have absolute confidence in refining the 3rd grade low-level medicinal pill at this moment. Especially now that he has successfully built the foundation of the 3rd fire and 4th fire spiritual power. After the profound spirit furnace absorbed the sun true fire, the foundation establishment pill, which could be refined under the foundation stage, had absolute certainty. However, now Yang Chen would never easily refine a simple foundation establishment pill. You must know that the profound yang fruit in Yang Chen's hands was now 1,000 years old, and the other medicinal materials were also jaw-dropping. Such materials refining, if it was just an ordinary foundation establishment pill, wouldn't it seem that Yang Chen's means were too low? If it was before, the 3rd grade foundation establishment pill was enough to meet Yang Chen's current needs. As long as there were a few medicinal pills, Yang Chen's concentrated spiritual power could continue to build the foundation. However, now that Yang Chen has the Penglai Divine Wood, he has a bolder idea. The Penglai Divine Wood was a wood attribute divine object, and it was also the best wood attribute material in the mortal world of the 1st wood attribute. Yang Chen was considering whether he could directly add the wood attribute of the Penglai Divine Wood to the foundation establishment pill to enhance his own 1st wood attribute spiritual power. This was something that Yang Chen had never done or thought about before, but Yang Chen knew that the world of cultivation was not static. There were innovations everywhere, and each martial arts sect was striving to carry forward all kinds of things in their own sect. Continuing the holy secret art was not strictly following the rules, but abandoning the shortcomings of the predecessors, enlarging the advantages and becoming more excellent. This was the right way. Although the pill recipe of the foundation establishment pill was very fixed, different years of medicinal materials would definitely lead to different medicinal pills, and different refining techniques would also bring different effects. What Yang Chen was considering now was to make a foundation establishment pill specifically for his own 1st wood attribute spiritual power, and it was best to contain the spiritual power of the Penglai Divine Wood. This was not an easy thing. To develop a new medicinal pill, it was necessary to do a lot of experiments. Of course, doing experiments would require a lot of materials. Fortunately, this was not a problem for Yang Chen. Whether it was the profound yang fruit or the leaves of the Penglai divine wood, he now had enough materials to experiment. The experience from his past life and the large amount of reading he had done in the Sutra Pavilion in this life allowed Yang Qin to have a direction from the very beginning, rather than blindly fumbling around. The refining technique was still the refining technique of building foundation dan, but it was necessary to add the materials of Penglai divine wood in a certain process. If others were to know that Yang Chen actually intended to use the Millennium Profound Yang fruit and the Penglai divine wood for the building foundation dan experiment, it was not known how many alchemists and refiners would tremble and madly scold Yang Chen for being a wastrel. Whether it is the 1,000-year-old profound Yang fruit or the Penglai divine wood, they are all things that people are envious of and can almost cause a bloody battle in the world. Yang Chen used them for experiments, which is simply not an ordinary wastrel. The condensation of the third fire spirit power made Yang Chen have a whole new concept. He did not expect that there would be such benefits through the profound spirit furnace. However, this also gave Yang Chen an inspiration. Since the third fire spirit power could be so condensed and pure, could the spirit power of the first wood attribute, with the help of the Penglai divine wood, achieve such an effect? The profound spirit furnace absorbed the sun true fire for almost 10 months. The medicine garden's purified bottle, under the nourishment of the abundant spirit power in these months, has absorbed the spirit power in a controlled manner, and has restored 3/4 of the spirit power. Yang Chen entered the medicine garden and looked at it. He was surprised to find that the medicine garden, after the integration of the Penglai divine wood, a wood attribute divine object, required more spirit power, and it was no longer a waste of all the spirit power converted into water attribute spirit power. The Penglai divine wood grew more and more lush, but the number did not increase, but the leaves were a lot more luxuriant, and the roots were more and more firmly rooted. And after the addition of the Penglai divine wood, the growth of those medicines seemed to be more and more vigorous. Everything made Yang Chen very satisfied. With this idea, it did not mean that Yang Chen would refine it immediately. After 10 months of retreat, Yang Chen also needed to go out and relax. After his rebirth, Yang Chen had a new understanding of cultivation. It was not that he could improve his cultivation base by immersing himself in hard work every day. This was the action of Yang Chen reading books in the scriptures pavilion, and at the same time, Yang Chen did not spend his time on cultivation every day. Strange, how can you? Gao Yu looked at Yang Chen, who came to pay his respects to her master, and there was an unspeakable feeling. Yang Chen's cultivation base was still in the early stage of the foundation stage, but when she met him, there was a kind of smell of fire, which made her, the Jiedan stage master, very puzzled. What are you doing in retreat? Thank you, master, for your concern. This disciple just sacrificially refined my alchemy furnace. Half of Yang Chen's words were true. Absorbing the sun true fire and melting the cyan crystal profound gold was indeed sacrificially refining the profound spirit furnace. It was a bit general, but the fact was so. Gao Yu was still puzzled, especially the situation of Yang Chen's communication with heaven and earth during his retreat, which made her unable to explain. But Yang Chen didn't say it, and she wouldn't ask too much detail. Everyone knew that Yang Chen was special, and Gao Yu, as a master, understood it even more. For this apprentice under her own name, Gao Yu really didn't think about it. From which aspect she should start to teach Yang Chen. However, in the past few months, she also wanted to understand a lot, and it was better to let nature take its course. People who cultivate, each person has their own fate, and it can't be forced. Yang Chen, your situation is very special. Gao Yu did not shy away from her guilty conscience in front of Yang Chen. In fact, I don't have a good idea to guide you. I am just your nominal master. If you have any questions, you can ask us to discuss them, but I will not ask you how to cultivate. Perhaps you should learn from a better master, not me. Gao Yu was very calm, but Yang Chen liked it more and more. This was the responsible approach, rather than putting on a master's face and pointing it out. Yang Chen was also not polite, and immediately asked Gao Yu for a few questions on cultivation. In fact, these problems were problems that Gao Yu did not understand at the beginning of the previous life. Yang Chen's problems and some of the possible ideas he provided just gave Gao Yu a feeling of sudden enlightenment. She immediately ignored Yang Chen and began to comprehend. Now Yang Chen's approach was very contradictory. On the one hand, he hoped to be able to remind Gao Yu to let her cultivate the water attribute, but in action, he was helping her improve the cultivation of the fire attribute. But this was something that couldn't be helped. Yang Chen couldn't always inexplicably tell his master that she was not suitable for the fire cultivation and should be a water cultivation, right? Some trust and tacit understanding couldn't be built in a day or two. Yang Chen had to do this first. Of course, this was what he liked, and he could not ask for more to relive his master's love. Chapter 192. He needed an opportunity to resolve his master's matter. What Yang Chen needed to do now was to subtly develop a pure trust between him and his master so that his master could trust him at any time. After bidding farewell to his master, Yang Chen was planning to go to the scripture pavilion. However, before he could leave the fierce sun courtyard, he was blocked by Gong Sunling in the courtyard. "Junior brother Yang, you promised that you would take care of all the pills I need to go to the immortal falling abyss." Gong Sunling did not pretend to be polite to Yang Chen. She directly stretched out her hand to ask Yang Chen for the pills. In any case, the fierce sun courtyard already owed Yang Chen a big favor, so Gong Sunling did not mind owing him a bit more. "I plan to go to the immortal falling abyss soon. Where are the pills you prepared for me?" "Are you sure you want to go to the immortal falling abyss?" Yang Chen frowned. He wanted to go to the immortal falling abyss because he knew that there was a place where he could cheat. Secondly, there was the earth flame. Thirdly, he needed to kill a lot of people to fuse with the will of the immortal beheading stage. However, there was no need for Gong Sunling to take this risk. At the very least, in his previous life, Gong Sunling had never gone there. In Yang Chen's eyes, the immortal falling abyss was a very ordinary place. However, in the eyes of ordinary cultivators, it was a truly dangerous place. Even immortals could fall there. Ordinary cultivators who entered the immortal falling abyss would at most wander around Separation Village and wait for an opportunity to kill some underground spirit beasts to obtain some 5-element spirit marrow. Only a few powerful Peak Foundation establishment experts would enter the depths. The people who chased after Yang Chen were this kind of people. However, Gong Sunling was clearly only at the early stage of qi refinement. Moreover, she had made plans to go to the immortal falling abyss to gain experience. This was completely different from her previous life. Although Yang Chen was happy for Gong Sunling's change, perhaps this would prevent her from dying in the heavenly tribulation. However, it would add a lot of danger to Gong Sunling's cultivation path. "I've thought about it. Perhaps if I concentrate on cultivating, I might be able to easily raise my cultivation level." Gong Sunling nodded seriously. "However, I will never have the hardships and experiences that junior brother Yang has gone through. Even if I'm blessed with good karma and ascend to heaven, I'm just an ascetic cultivator who doesn't pay attention to what's going on outside, just like a walking corpse. I don't want to be like that." After saying this, Yang Chen was sure that Gong Sunling had thought about what her changes would bring to her in the future. As for Gong Sunling's own decision, Yang Chen couldn't say anything, although this was what he wanted to see. Of course, he could do something, for example, refining the pills that Gong Sunling needed to go to the immortal fallen abyss. "Give me 2 months." Yang Chen didn't say much and just let Gong Sunling wait for 2 months. He wanted to refine enough pills for Gong Sunling to use for 10 years in the immortal fallen abyss. "Senior sister, I'll have to trouble you to go out and buy all the medicinal ingredients that can be used to refine the qi-nourishing pills and the essence-cultivating pills." "All of them?" Gong Sunling was shocked. How many spirit stones would it cost to buy such a huge amount of medicinal ingredients? She didn't have enough spirit stones to do these things. But she quickly stopped worrying. Yang Chen directly handed over a Qianquan bag. "There are more than 10,000 kilograms of low-grade spirit stones in here. It should be enough to buy these medicinal ingredients." Seeing that Gong Sunling hesitated and didn't know whether to take it or not, Yang Chen smiled. "Senior sister, I promise to cover all the medicinal ingredients you use." "Senior sister won't let me be a person who goes back on his word, right?" Gong Sunling hesitated for a moment, but finally took the Qianquan bag handed over by Yang Chen. Since she already owed him a favor, she would find a chance to make it up to him in the future. After looking at Yang Chen with a complicated expression, she didn't argue. She immediately turned around and flew away on her sword, hurrying to purchase medicinal ingredients. Returning to his room in a hurry, Yang Chen quickly called Xinda, Gu Kun, He Lian and Yuan Ting to his side. He pulled out a list and directly ordered, "Xinda, Gu Kun, the two of you go buy all the medicinal ingredients in the Meiqing Mountains market." Along with the list, there were also 4 Qianquan bags. The 4 of them were slaves and didn't have Qianquan bags. Yang Chen had killed a lot of guys. Now he took out a few, erased the sect mark on them, and gave them to the 4 people. "He Lian Yuan Ting, you prepare to refine pills with me." The 4 of them were slaves, so Yang Chen was not polite when he ordered them. Similarly, the 4 of them took the things given by Yang Chen and were just as quick, not as hesitant as Gong Sunling just now. He Lian was once again able to witness Yang Chen refining medicinal pills, and it was the first time for Yuan Ting. Both women were very excited, especially He Lian. She was focused on alchemy, and of course, she also heard the news that Yang Chen could refine the heaven-seizing pill. To be able to see Yang Chen refining pills, for others, it was an opportunity that they couldn't ask for. "He Lian, pay more attention to my fire control technique." For his slaves, Yang Chen was not stingy with his advice. "You are now diligent in practicing fire control, and you have a certain degree of mastery. After this refining, I will teach you how to refine the qi-seeking pill. In the future, the qi-seeking pill that Chunyang Palace needs will be refined by you." When he said this, He Lian was so surprised that she almost cried out. Over the years, she served Yang Chen conscientiously, and when Yang Chen was not around, she also practiced fire control very hard, and now she finally got the reward. Yuan Ting looked at He Lian enviously, and Yang Chen also saw her gaze. He smiled slightly and said, "Yuan Ting, you don't have to be envious. You like to study arrays. There are a few jade slips about refining in the sutra depository. I will make a copy of them someday, and you can take a look first. Even if you are not a fire cultivator, you can also refine tools." Listening to Yang Chen's words, Yuan Ting's face couldn't help but show a surprised expression. Shenda and Gu Kun didn't say much. Maybe they were men, and not as good at expressing themselves as women, but their eyes also showed eagerness. The 4 slaves had been following Yang Chen for more than 11 years. After the first time they were somewhat unconvinced, they had always been obedient, and they served him well without any complaints. Yang Chen observed them for so long, and finally affirmed their temperament. Of course, he had to cultivate his own servants. It just so happened that their hobbies were different. He Lian refined pills, Yuan Ting refined tools, and Gu Kun studied arrays, while Shenda focused on cultivation. Each had their own characteristics, and Yang Chen didn't mind having a few more helpers around him. "The few of you have been following me for more than 10 years, and now your cultivation has also improved. I can give you a promise." In order to stimulate them to make progress, Yang Chen decided to give them a huge hope. "If your cultivation reaches the peak of qi refining, I can give each of you a 3rd revolution foundation building pill." Boom! The 4 slaves seemed to be suddenly frozen. They stared at Yang Chen and could no longer move. Chapter 193. The 3 Revolutions Foundation Establishment Pill. Even if this cultivator was a blockhead, a slag, as long as he reached the peak of the qi refining stage, as long as he took the 3 Revolutions Foundation Establishment Pill, he could smoothly build the foundation. Shenda and the other 4 people in the past 10 years, under the occasional guidance of Yang Chen, had cultivated to the realm of the 6th layer of qi refining. From the 3rd layer to the 6th layer, it took him 10 years. Speaking of which, this was already considered a pretty good cultivation aptitude. Perhaps his comprehension ability was a little lacking, and his luck was bad. The person who passed on the technique to him didn't do his best, so he ended up as a servant. In the past 10 years, Yang Chen also observed the 4 people through other people. They had been dead set on Yang Chen. Even when Chu Heng tried his best to deal with Yang Chen, the 4 people did not betray him. So, this was the reward they deserved. "Thank you, young master." The 4 people almost didn't think about it. They directly bowed to the ground and paid homage to Yang Chen. Yang Chen was not only giving them benefits in cultivation, but also directly sending them to the ranks of the inner sect disciples. As long as they built the foundation, they would no longer be slaves, but the inner sect disciples of Chunyang Palace. How could such a change not make them grateful? The four people even secretly vowed that even if they became inner sect disciples in the future, they would still look at Yang Chen as a master. Now let's find what I need first. Yang Chen did not comment on the gratitude of the four people, nor did he care about their secret vow. He just smiled and urged, "When cultivating, don't try to be brave, haste makes waste. Go." The four people no longer dared to neglect, quickly climbed up and began to be busy. In less than a day, the medicinal materials that Yang Chen needed appeared in front of him. He Lian's eyes widened, watching Yang Chen's every move and watching the flow of the flame in the profound spirit furnace. This was something Yang Chen had specifically told her to look at. As for how much she could comprehend, it would depend on her own comprehension. Qi nourishing Dan could be refined as long as one was in the third layer of Qi refining, but not every third-grade Dan refinement master was willing to refine third revolution Qi nourishing Dan. Yang Chen's movements were very fast, but they were also very clear, especially when he deliberately demonstrated to He Lian. Even the process of refining the medicinal herbs was very clear. The technique wasn't complicated, but there was an indescribable feeling to it. He Lian was immersed in it after watching for a while. The effect of the third revolution Qi nourishing pill was even stronger than that of the foundation enhancing pill. A 3-turn Qi nourishing pill was enough for Gong Sunling to consume half a day's worth of spiritual energy. Adding on the abundant spiritual energy in the immortal falling abyss, Gong Sunling did not need to worry about not having enough spiritual energy. According to Gong Sunling's 10 years in the immortal falling abyss, Yang Chen had refined more than 7,000 3-turn Qi nourishing pills for Gong Sunling. All the medicinal herbs needed for the Qi nourishing pill had been purchased in the market square of 2,000 miles, causing those who traded in medicinal herbs to start hoarding these low-grade medicinal herbs. In addition to the nourishing Qi Dan, Yang Chen also refined hundreds of Peiyuan Dan, which were the same as the third-grade Peiyuan Dan. Each of them could supplement spiritual power and repair injuries when they were injured. This was also a precaution. Safety was the most important issue. The belt of the fire jade boulder array that Yang Chen obtained from an unknown stalker in the Taishanmen also came in handy. After Yang Chen used the heavenly spirit treasure refining technique and the earth fiend array sacrificial technique to refine it several times, he took the initiative to erase his divine sense. This belt, from the beginning, could resist the attack of the early stage of the foundation stage. After Yang Chen's sacrificial refining, it was comparable to a master in the middle stage of the foundation stage, always protecting the surroundings. Yang Chen did not prepare more things. First, Gong Sunling would not accept it. Second, the purpose of going to the immortal falling abyss was to gain experience. If the protection was too much, it would lose the original purpose of the experience. 2 months later, Gong Sunling received these things. When Yang Chen handed it over, Gong Sunling did not refuse, but looked at Yang Chen with a different expression. Finally, she silently put away the things, said to Yang Chen, and then directly flew to the immortal falling abyss on her sword. During the 2 months of refining the elixir, He Lian followed along and learned from the beginning to the end. After sending away Gong Sunling, Yang Chen began to teach He Lian how to refine the Qi-seeking pill. This kind of low-level medicinal pill completely relied on the method of controlling the fire to refine. The medicinal materials were in a mess. It was no longer suitable for Yang Chen to spend time to refine for the sect. The method of controlling the fire, He Lian had been practicing for 9 years. Although there was still a big gap with Yang Chen, it was enough to meet the requirements of the Qi-seeking pill. In just a few days, He Lian had mastered the refining method of the Qi-seeking pill and began to refine the Qi-seeking pill for the medicinal hall on a regular basis. At the same time, she exchanged a lot of sect contribution points and spirit stones. Gao Yu was still comprehending. It seemed that her cultivation base would be improved in the near future. Yang Chen did not disturb her. After communicating with everyone again, he began to retreat again. This time, Yang Qin intended to attack the foundation stage of the first wood spirit power. During the time of refining the medicinal pill for Gong Sunling, in addition to the mechanical alchemy, Yang Chen's mind was not idle, but he was thinking about the possibility of adding the Penglai divine wood to the foundation establishment pill. If others knew that Yang Chen was refining the third-grade medicinal pill while his mind was still distracted, it would definitely make countless people crazy. The first wood spirit power of the Penglai divine wood, Yang Chen has already thought of a way to integrate it into the foundation establishment pill. The branches and leaves of the divine wood were not suitable for medicine, but suitable for refining. The most suitable part for medicine was the root. After determining this, the number of experiments that Yang Chen needed would be greatly reduced, and he only needed to experiment at a few key time points. Even if it was a failure, it would be a coveted good thing, and it would not be wasted at all. Carefully removing the roots of the 4 sections of the Penglai divine wood, Yang Chen began the refining of the third-grade foundation establishment pill. The roots of the 4 sections of the Penglai divine wood were added at the critical moments of the 4 alchemy. This was the possibility left after Yang Chen simulated tens of thousands of times in his mind. The 1,000-year profound yang fruit had in fact already surpassed 1,300 years of maturity. In addition to the other supplementary herbs, all of them were good things that were over 1,000 years old. This furnace of pills, even if only slag was left, was still a rare good thing. In strict accordance with the technique of the foundation establishment pill, these medicinal materials were added to the profound spirit furnace, and the earth fire began to carefully refine. When all the medicinal materials began to become liquid and fuse, Yang Chen added the first root. Just after adding it, he immediately discovered a fatal problem. In a short time, the earth fire could not refine the roots of the Penglai divine wood. Chapter 194. Although the 5 elements of wood gave birth to fire, the level of Penglai divine wood was too high, and the earth core fire felt a little unattainable. Yang Chen couldn't help but be glad that he had spent almost a year to let the profound spirit furnace absorb the sun true fire, and he could use it immediately. If it was replaced by other people, even if it was the original owner of this sun true fire, Helian Yun, the sun true fire would directly burn the Penglai divine wood to the point that there was no residue left. But Yang Chen had the sun true fire in his previous life, and his familiarity with this kind of flame was more thorough than all the people in the mortal world combined. Just a trace of the extremely subtle fire line directly penetrated into the small root of the Penglai divine wood. While distracting to control the melting medicinal liquid, he was attentively controlling this trace of fire to refine the root. Fortunately, Yang Chen's current spiritual awareness was extremely powerful, and the 3 purities secret art may not only bring about the strength of the spiritual awareness, but more so that Yang Chen could be distracted, so that he could easily do this. After a lot of time, the small root was finally refined and integrated into the medicinal liquid of the foundation establishment pill. After thousands of simulations, there were no mistakes, and the medicinal liquid changed steadily until a month later, it successfully turned into a light green medicinal pill. The 3 Revolutions Foundation Establishment pill, but it was slightly different from the ordinary Foundation Establishment pill. There was a very clear taste of the wood attribute spiritual power in it. This was the first medicinal pill of Yang Chen's experiment. It was a success, but Yang Chen still needed to compare it with several other kinds to see which one had the best effect. Soon, 4 months passed in a hurry, and there were 4 green 3 Revolutions Foundation Establishment pills in Yang Chen's merit ring. Now, these 4 medicinal pills were lined up and placed in front of Yang Chen. The color changed from light green to dark green, which clearly showed the depth of the wood attribute spiritual power. For different times to join, there would be 4 different results. However, what was amazing was that Yang Chen refined the 4 foundation establishment pills only 4 times. In other words, his success rate in refining the 3rd Revolution Foundation building pill was 100%. Refining a building foundation dan was not too difficult for a senior alchemist, but for a 3rd-grade alchemist, it was not possible to succeed every time. What Yang Chen did was enough to make Deng Ya and Zhu Peng, who were at the nascent soul realm, stronger than them. His spiritual awareness explored the 4 medicinal pills, Xianxia needed to judge the difference in the spiritual power of these medicinal pills. However, when his divine sense wrapped around the 4 elixirs, his consciousness suddenly appeared in his sea of consciousness, and in front of him, 4 huge green balls appeared. Xianxia didn't expect that he would appear in his sea of consciousness at this moment. However, when he saw the 4 giant balls, he couldn't help but open his mouth wide. Where were these 4 giant balls? They were clearly 4 medicinal pills, enlarged to such a degree that the size of each one seemed to be several times larger than Xianxia. What surprised Xianxia even more was that he could easily see any corner and any gap in these 4 medicinal pills. The structure, composition, spiritual power distribution of the 4 medicinal pills, and even some flaws in the medicinal pills, at this moment, in the eyes of Xianxia, there were no secrets, and they were completely presented in front of Xianxia. Is this the effect of the 3 purities secret art? Xianxia was not sure what was the reason for this. His sea of consciousness had become like this, and he was a little unable to understand it. Although he was a great principal golden immortal in his previous life, he was only a bottom great principal golden immortal. His sea of consciousness was just a simple sea of consciousness. There was nothing in it, not to mention that it was divided into levels, and he could even see the composition of these medicinal pills. But in any case, this was not a bad thing for Xianxia. Was there anything better for an alchemist than to be able to so clearly analyze the composition structure of the medicinal pills, the distribution of spiritual power, and even find the flaws in the refining of the medicinal pills? This was simply a good thing tailor-made for Xianxia. It could even make all the alchemists crazy jealous and want to snatch this ability. Why did such a sea of consciousness appear? Xianxia's spiritual awareness gave up immediately analyzing the advantages and disadvantages of the 4 medicinal pills and immediately withdrew from the sea of consciousness. The first thing he did was to recite the content of the 3 purities secret art. It must be known that the 3 purities secret art was the most likely cause of this. Soon Xianxia discovered the reason. The 3 purities secret art could continuously increase the spiritual awareness of a cultivator, which was more powerful than any cultivation method of spiritual awareness. However, most cultivators would split their spiritual awareness after cultivating for a period of time. When the increase of their spiritual awareness was higher than their own realm by a great realm, their spiritual awareness would split. The splitting of the spiritual awareness also meant that there would be a second primordial spirit, but usually this situation would only appear at least in the yuanying stage. Xianxia had reached this realm early because the murderous aura of the immortal beheading was refined into a huge spiritual awareness by the 3 purities secret art. However, because his cultivation base was too low, he had never split his spiritual awareness into a second primordial spirit. Now that his spiritual awareness has reached the peak of the Jidan stage, it was almost 2 realms higher than Xianxia's early foundation stage cultivation base. So there was this situation that was not in the records of the 3 purities secret art. This was an unexpected surprise that led to a qualitative change by quantitative change, and it also meant that Xianxia could finally cultivate the 3rd layer of the 3 purities secret art. Even if the Grand Supreme Elderly Lord stood in front of Xianxia, he couldn't help but admire Xianxia's unique opportunity. Since it was a good thing, Xianxia certainly did not hesitate to cultivate the 3rd layer of the 3 purities secret art. The feeling of his spiritual awareness being tempered made Xianxia feel both a little pain and an addictive feeling of comfort. Just once, Xianxia could find that his sea of consciousness had become more and more refined. It was really the cultivation method of the Elderly Lord. It was powerful to the extreme. The 4 medicinal pills were always in front of him, but they never entered the sea of consciousness. What Xianxia saw in the sea of consciousness was only the reflection of the medicinal pills in the sea of consciousness under the scan of the spiritual awareness. After entering the sea of consciousness again, Xianxia had already figured out the way to use it. The size of the medicinal pills could be easily changed according to Xianxia's will, making it easier for him to see the structure inside. In Xianxia's sea of consciousness, the 4 medicinal pills were analyzed thoroughly by Xianxia to the extreme. When there was a small problem with the heat, when the timing of adding medicinal materials was lacking. In the medicinal pills that Xianxia used to think were perfect, he found no less than dozens of imperfections. Naturally, the most suitable medicinal pill was also found by Yang Qin. However, this medicinal pill was not for Yang Qin to take immediately, but according to the refining method of this medicinal pill, the small root of the Penglai divine wood was replaced with a main root to refine. Chapter 195. A small section of thin roots and a main root were two completely different concepts. This kind of common sense, even an ordinary person could distinguish it. Of course, the cultivators were more aware of the differences in the spiritual power contained in it, as well as the differences in the larger functions. The 4 medicinal pills of Yang Chen at the beginning were just experimental products, and the real medicinal pills refined for himself were still behind. This time, Yang Chen's attitude was more serious, and even the refining time was at least twice as long. Of course, the reason for the long time was that refining the main root of the Penglai divine wood was much more difficult than refining a small section of the small roots. This step alone took Yang Chen more than a month's time. And this was the result of Yang Chen fully mobilizing the Sun True Fire, and the strength of the main root could be seen. The choice was the best profound yang fruit, the best auxiliary medicine, the thickest main root in the Penglai divine wood forest, and this alone consumed a quarter of the spiritual power of the medicine garden to supplement. Compared with the needs of Yang Chen's foundation stage, it was simply a waste. In 2 months, the final product was a green pill with 3 clear pill marks on it, and it also formed a miniature Penglai divine wood medicinal pill, the 3rd grade divine wood foundation establishment pill. The small flaws in the previous alchemy process, under the careful control of Yang Chen, were repaired a lot and became more and more perfect. Put there, just the pill qi that lingered around the medicinal pill and did not disperse made people see the excellence of this medicinal pill at a glance. After making enough preparations again, Yang Chen sent the perfect medicinal pill to his mouth. The longan-sized medicinal pill melted in his mouth, and in an instant it turned into a familiar aura of the Penglai divine wood that Yang Chen was familiar with, and rushed straight into Yang Chen's lungs. In the meridians, the spirit power of the Penglai divine wood domineeringly merged into Yang Chen's first wood spirit power, and then unceremoniously assimilated the first wood spirit power in Yang Chen's body. This process was not easier than Yang Chen condensing the 3rd fire spirit power with the Sun True Fire. Every transformation of spiritual power consumed a huge amount of spiritual power, and this spiritual power was completely provided by the spiritual power generated by Yang Chen's Yin-Yang 5 Elements Secret Art and the 3rd grade foundation establishment pill. The Yin-Yang 5 Elements Secret Art was running wildly, making up for Yang Chen's first wood spirit power assimilated by the Penglai divine wood. After the aura of the Penglai divine wood began to assimilate enough of the first wood spirit power, Yang Chen began to compete for control with the aura of the Penglai divine wood. To put it simply, Yang Chen used a huge amount of spiritual power to dilute and assimilate the aura of the Penglai divine wood that was condensed to the extreme, and then began to absorb and refine these auras, becoming part of his own Yin-Yang 5 Elements Secret Art. It was also a painstaking effort. Yang Chen extracted a trace of the Penglai divine wood aura that was entrenched in his body, then absorbed and refined it, and at the same time let his meridians adapt to this pure to the extreme first wood spirit power. This process lasted for a full 2 months. When the last trace of the Penglai divine wood spirit power completely turned into Yang Chen's first wood spirit power, Yang Chen once again entered the state of communicating with heaven and earth. This was the 3rd time that Yang Chen had entered this state in this life. The overwhelming spiritual power gathered from all directions into Yang Chen's body, and Yang Chen's first wood spirit power that had just been refined to the extreme was once again supplemented to a stunning level. The process lasted for half an hour. In the ordinary foundation stage, the process of communicating with heaven and earth was completed in just a short moment, but Yang Chen had set a new record this time. The emergence of this vision even made the palace master of Chunyang Palace, who happened to be in the fierce sun courtyard, give up his cultivation and stand outside the room where Yang Chen retreated. Of course, the palace master would not easily interrupt Yang Chen's cultivation, nor would he do anything to interfere with it. Also coming here because of the vision here was Yang Chen's master, Gao Yu. The foundation stage of the first wood spirit power drove the other attributes of the spiritual power in Yang Chen's body to improve wildly. The long-term process of communicating with heaven and earth directly caused the spiritual power in Yang Chen's body to rush to the apex of the peak qi refining stage in just half an hour, and then broke through the critical point. As a result, Yang Chen had to begin to welcome his remaining 7 spiritual powers and build his foundation at the same time. This was a crazy and surprising process. After half an hour of the first wood spirit power communicating with heaven and earth, a larger-scale heaven and earth essence qi riot began to be produced in the retreat room of Yang Chen in the fierce sun courtyard. Even when the Jiedan stage master condensed his Dan, it did not cause such a big movement. The heaven and earth spiritual power within 100 miles of the fierce sun courtyard seemed to have encountered a super black hole and rushed to the fierce sun courtyard. So many people who were cultivating in the Chunyang Palace found the abnormality here. Several elder-level characters immediately flew into the air and instantly arrived at the fierce sun courtyard. But immediately they found the palace master standing outside Yang Chen's retreat room. Everyone tacitly did not make a sound and quietly landed behind the palace master. These elders were very clear about how many people lived in the fierce sun courtyard. Now, almost everyone except Yang Chen and Gong Sunling had already stood on this side. Gong Sunling had already set off to the immortal falling abyss, so who was inside, these elders did not need to explore with their spiritual awareness to know. The huge heaven and earth spiritual power directly formed a huge vortex over Yang Chen's room, and the lower end of the vortex was Yang Chen. Yang Chen's body at this moment was like a huge sponge, madly absorbing the spiritual power, and then it was refined and purified by the yin and yang 5 elements secret art in his own body, becoming a part of his own spiritual power. Yang Chen's consciousness had appeared in his own sea of consciousness at this moment. The original sea of consciousness only had a long river of blood, a sun in the sky and the magma under the long river, but now there was a big tree. The roots of the big tree were firmly rooted on the edge of the long river of blood. The long roots even directly extended into the magma below, and the huge canopy was just next to the red sun in the sky. The thick trunk stood upright, forming a bridge connecting heaven and earth. The outline of the sea of consciousness had expanded to the size of 5 fierce sun courtyards, and it definitely had a radius of hundreds of acres. Yang Chen stood in the middle and could even feel the emptiness. The long river of blood also became longer, crossing the entire sea of consciousness, dividing the sea of consciousness into 2 parts. What happened? The people outside Yang Chen's room looked at the continuous phenomenon of the heaven and earth spiritual power and could not help but stare at each other. No one knew what had happened, but everyone had a consensus that this was definitely a good thing. Chapter 196. The communication between heaven and earth lasted for an hour and a half, but none of the onlookers waiting were impatient. Several of Yang Chen's fellow apprentices and those servants were curious about what happened. At the same time, they also took advantage of the opportunity of the crazy concentration of spiritual power here to cultivate a little. The effect was many times better than usual. As for the Chunyang Palace Master, several Yuanying stage elders, and Gao Yu, they were guessing what happened to Yang Chen that would cause such a situation. However, this situation was very familiar to everyone, and they had all experienced it. This was clearly the scene of communicating with heaven and earth during the foundation stage, but at that time, no one had such a big movement as Yang Chen, and no one had lasted as long as Yang Chen. Everyone waited like this, thinking and waiting. The turbulence of the spiritual power of heaven and earth finally began to ease and slowly stopped. Everyone was relieved and knew that they had reached the final juncture. The palace master suddenly remembered what Su Qingxin once said to him. It seemed that at the Heaven Stairway gathering, Yang Chen said that he had cultivated the other 5 elements of spiritual power. It was said that it was to feel what the other spiritual power felt like. Moreover, the palace master himself also clearly felt that in addition to the fire attribute spiritual power in Yang Chen's body, there were indeed other attributes of spiritual power. However, at that time, the palace master also listened to Su Qingxin's words and knew that Yang Chen had this experience, And he did make the royal fire like water and royal fire like earth techniques in front of Xianxia, so he did not pay much attention to it at that time. However, now that he was communicating with heaven and earth for such a long time, he thought of a possibility. Yang Chen would not have succeeded in building all the 5 attributes of spiritual power, right? When he thought of this, the palace master himself was shocked. At the same time, he cultivated 5 kinds of spiritual power and built his foundation at the same time. How could this be described as a genius? It was more like calling him a monster. How was this possible? If he thought that the master of the Yuanying stage had built his foundation with other attributes of spiritual power, the palace master would believe it, but a disciple who had just built his foundation with fire attribute actually built his foundation with all 5 elements of spiritual power. No matter how strong Yang Chen was, where did he get the time to cultivate? It must be known that Yang Chen's cultivation in the 9 Earth Mountain Villa was famous for being lazy. Even in the Ardent Sun Courtyard, if it wasn't for these 2 seclusion sessions, he would be very carefree every day. How was it possible for all 5 elements of spiritual power to be at the foundation establishment stage? But if that wasn't the case, how could the current situation be explained? Palace Master Zhang Jiao couldn't understand, but fortunately, Yang Chen would finish it soon. When he asked, wouldn't all the truth be revealed? The consequence of communicating with heaven and earth was that Yang Chen's yin-yang 5 elemental arts once again entered a balanced state. This was the most comfortable state for Yang Chen, and also the state with the strongest combat power. Originally, he planned to use the profound spirit furnace and the sword sheath with the yin-yang 5 elements secret art to complete all the sacrificial refining of the celestial spirit treasure refining secret art and the earth fiend sacrificial formation secret art, but Yang Chen soon found that there were a lot of people standing at his door. Among them were the head of the palace and his master. Yang Chen also had to open the door immediately. Greetings, master, greetings, palace master, greetings, elders. As soon as he went out, Yang Chen had no other action except to pay homage to these seniors. Everyone has been patiently waiting for him to pay homage to them, and then they began to observe Yang Chen carefully. Yang Chen's yin-yang 5 elements secret art was now balanced again, and naturally there was a kind of heroic and restrained temperament. It seemed to be a return to nature, but including Gao Yu, they could feel the powerful spiritual power of the 5 elements that flowed silently in Yang Chen's body. Perhaps this spiritual power was not worth their attention in front of these masters, but they had already estimated the current combat power of Yang Chen. Yang Chen, who had just reached the foundation stage and was still in the first layer of the foundation stage, could at least deal with 10 guys in the same realm as him at the same time, and this was still a conservative estimate. It was even very likely that the middle stage of the foundation stage was not necessarily the opponent of Yang Chen. Perhaps only the people in the advanced or peak stage of the foundation stage could fight with Yang Chen. A disciple in the foundation stage had once again surprised them. The head of the palace didn't know what to say, but Gao Yu cared about her apprentice and couldn't help but ask in front of everyone, Yang Chen, what was the matter with your movement just now? Foundation stage? Yes, master. Yang Chen replied respectfully, and for a moment, he had already figured out how to deal with these elders in front of him. You cultivate the spiritual power of the 5 elements at the same time, aren't you afraid of not distinguishing between the primary and secondary? Gao Yu's eyebrows almost became a knot. Since the beginning of the cultivator, she had never heard of a successful cultivator who cultivated the 5 elements. There were cultivators, but the final result was very miserable. Everyone knew the benefits of specialization, like Yang Chen, it was unique. This disciple still specializes in the fire attribute, but the other 5 elements of spiritual power automatically upgraded to the foundation stage. This disciple did not expect it. Yang Chen still respectfully answered his master's questions, and also solved the doubts of other elders. You have not specialized in other spiritual power, how can you reach the foundation stage? Gao Yu asked puzzled. Similarly, this was also the question of the palace master and the elders. Gao Yu asked for them, and it was better for them to lose their manners on the spot. This disciple accidentally refined a foundation stage pill and wanted to try the effect. As a result, it became like this. Yangchen was still honest to answer. What kind of foundation stage pill? The head of the palace asked in front of Gao Yu this time. As the palace master, he immediately realized the extraordinariness of this. This is the medicinal pill refined by this disciple. Please taste it. Yang Chen from the merit ring took the best foundation stage pill with both hands and sent it to the front of the head of the palace. 3-grade foundation stage pill? When the palace master took it, he immediately found the extraordinariness of the medicinal pill and exclaimed on the spot. The scream of the palace master made several Yuanying stage elders no longer care about Fengyi. All of them gathered around, one by one looking at the foundation stage pill in the hands of the palace master. They could not wait to grab it and observe it carefully. The 3 obvious pill marks clearly indicated the grade of the medicinal pill. There was no doubt that this was a 3rd-grade medicinal pill, but was there a green one for the foundation stage pill? What a strong wood spiritual power, what is this? The palace master who held it in his hand immediately felt the wood spiritual power contained in the medicinal pill and whispered, Fusang wood. Qingyang wood? No, it's not so strong, is this? Penglai divine wood? Boom! Several elders no longer had the reservation of a Yuanying stage ancestor. Like an outbreak, they all screamed out loud. Chapter 197. Penglai divine wood, this almost legendary thing, would actually appear in a medicinal pill? How was this possible? Several Yuanying stage elders could not wait to grab the medicinal pill to see what it was, but due to the identity of the head of the palace, they did not do it so much, but they had already surrounded the head of the palace. Foundation establishment pill, even if it was the 3rd-grade foundation establishment pill, for these Yuanying stage masters, the significance was not very great. They had already built the foundation for many years. At most, Yang Chen could refine the 3rd-grade foundation establishment pill. He could be regarded as a very talented alchemy disciple in the sect, and he would be vigorously cultivated. But Penglai divine wood was different. It was something that could refine the most powerful flying sword. If it happened to be a wood cultivator, it was simply one of the best magic weapons in the mortal world. However, this kind of thing was too precious. Even the palace master could not determine that the aura on this medicinal pill was Penglai divine wood. He had only ruled out a few high-grade wood-type materials and came to this conclusion. After the head of the palace looked at it, the medicinal pill was passed in the hands of a group of Yuanying stage elders. After everyone carefully identified it one by one, no one could be sure that the pure wood attribute aura was not the legendary Penglai divine wood. Yang Chen, what kind of material is the wood aura in it? After everyone had seen it, the palace master motioned everyone to come to the meeting hall of the Fierce Sun courtyard. It was really inappropriate for the elders to stand in the small courtyard of Yang Chen. After sitting down, the palace master asked, I don't know. Yang Chen directly told a lie with his eyes open. I just happened to encounter a small piece of wood, which has a strong wood spirit power, so I tried to refine this wood spirit power into the foundation establishment pill. I did not expect it to succeed in one try. What about the wooden strip? The palace master asked a little eagerly, and then immediately realized his gaffe, slowed down, and then said, Is there anything else? Although the other Yuanying stage elders did not speak, they were also looking forward to Meng Han, waiting for his affirmative answer. That's all we have left. Yang Chen was going to say no, but he changed his mind. He took out a finger-thick branch of the Penglai divine wood from the medicine garden, and then put it in the hands of the head of the palace. There is a finger-sized one broken. I used it to refine medicine. This palace master Xianxia took the green branch and felt the wood attribute spiritual power that was stronger than the medicinal pill. His fingers even began to tremble. Several elders also focused their eyes on the hands of the palace master for the first time, and they refused to move their eyes away. Even if he held it in his hand, the head of the palace was still not sure that this was the Penglai divine wood. He needed everyone to observe and identify it before he could give an answer. After all, this kind of thing was a legend. How many people had seen it with their own eyes? Even the old mountain god was deceived, let alone mortals like the head of the palace? The small branch was passed in the hands of several elders, but the eyes of the head of the palace had shifted from the Penglai Divine Wood to the 3 Grades Foundation Establishment Pill in front of him, or it could not simply be called the 3 Grades Foundation Establishment Pill, but it should be called the 3 Grades Divine Wood Foundation Establishment Pill. 3 Grades Foundation Establishment Pill. Looking up, the palace master looked at Yang Chen, and his lips seemed to be a little dry. Is this refined by you? It was refined by this disciple. Yang Chen certainly would not deny it. This was the guarantee of his own status in Chunyang Palace. How could he not recognize it? The head of the palace was the head of the palace. After the excitement of getting the Penglai Divine Wood branch, he immediately began to think about the affairs of Chunyang Palace. And what could make him happier than a potential disciple who could refine the 3 Grades Foundation Establishment Pill and could refine the Penglai Divine Wood? This was not counting the fact that after Yang Chen took the 3 Grades Divine Wood Foundation Establishment Pill, he actually built the foundation of all the 5 elements of spiritual power. Such a powerful medicinal pill, there was no need for more. If Yang Chen prepared one for every outer sect disciple, what kind of scene would Chunyang Palace be? Even Zhu Chintao, the veteran 3rd-grade alchemist master of the Jidan stage, was not sure that he could successfully refine the 3 Grades Foundation Establishment Pill. The Qi-seeking pill had more than doubled the number of outer sect disciples in Chunyang Palace, and the news of the successful refining of the heaven-seizing pill had made the number of new disciples received by Chunyang Palace several times more this year. Now the 3 Grades Foundation Establishment Pill could almost certainly let the people at the peak of the Qi refining stage build the foundation. All of this was related to Yang Chen. Could it be that Yang Chen was the Deputy General of Chunyang Palace? It had to be said that Yang Chen's appearance had indeed confirmed this fact. The earth vein of the fierce sun courtyard, the Penglai Divine Wood, the heaven ladder to the top, and the 200,000 5-element spirit essence, any one of them, if placed on a disciple in the foundation establishment stage, would be unbelievable, but these were all facts that had already happened. The more he thought about what happened to Yang Chen, the more satisfied the palace master felt, and at the same time, he hated Chu Heng who suppressed Yang Chen more. For Liang Xiaoming of the Bright Moon Palace, there was also a little more dissatisfaction. How long does it take you to refine this kind of 3 Grades Foundation Establishment Pill? The palace master picked up the pill again and looked at it repeatedly in his hand. At this time, he found that in addition to the wood spiritual power in the pill, there was also a very large spiritual power. This spiritual power was so powerful that even the palace master was a little surprised. The 1,000-year-old mysterious yang fruit was a pill refined by the 3 grades, and all the auxiliary medicines were more than 1,000 years old. Of course, it was full of frightening spiritual power. But the palace master did not know and just attributed it to the 3 Grades Foundation Establishment Pill. This kind of pill containing the wood spiritual power will take at least 8 months. Yang Chen played a trick and doubled the number. If it is a simple foundation establishment pill, it will also take 4 months. The palace master listened to Yang Chen's answer and nodded. This time was not very outrageous, but it was also unacceptable. After thinking about it, the palace master asked another related question. What if it is a 2nd Grades Foundation Establishment Pill? That's simple. Yang Chen did not hide anything on this and honestly replied, 1 month is enough. After listening to Yang Chen's answer, the palace master hesitated for a long time and did not speak, but his eyes looked at the Penglai Divine Wood that was exchanged back and forth between several elders. Yang Chen. After a long time, the palace master seemed to have figured out something and called Yang Chen. This disciple is here. Yang Chen quickly promised. This branch, hand it over to the sect, are you willing? Looking at the branch of the Penglai Divine Wood, the palace master used a tentative tone, completely discussing the tone. This disciple is willing. Yang Chen replied directly without thinking. Since it was taken out, it was to be handed over to the sect, Yang Chen would not refuse. Chapter 198. As for this medicinal pill, the palace master held Yang Chen's 3 Grades Divine Wood Foundation Establishment Pill with 2 fingers. He thought about it and said, Also give it to the sect and let Hall Master Zhu study it. Yang Qin did not have any dissatisfaction at all. He took it out and did not think about taking it back. If he didn't come up with some real materials, how could Chunyang Palace pay more and more attention to himself? The sect will not accept your things for nothing. The palace master looked at Yang Chen's eyes and slowly asked, if you have any requirements, just put them forward. If the sect can meet them, it will never be stingy. Several elders had stopped observing the Penglai divine wood and were all listening to the words of the palace master and Yang Chen. When the palace master proposed to let Yang Chen make a request, none of the elders had any objection. Obviously, the things that Yang Chen took out this time were enough to make these elders, even Elder Lin, who had the most opinions on Yang Chen, had nothing to say. There were disputes within the sect, but this did not mean that everyone would give up the development of the sect because of this. A genius disciple like Yang Chen had constantly brought them surprises. Now even the legendary Penglai divine wood was selflessly taken out. If they had any opinions, it would be purely a needle in a needle. Several elders could cultivate to the Yuanying stage. If they couldn't even see this, then they would not be elders. Moreover, from the possibility that Yang Chen might help them one day refine the heaven-seizing pill, there would be no opinion. Whether it was public or private, there was no reason to object. This disciple wants to know, the last time the palace master said that he wanted to negotiate with the Taishanmen, what was the result? Yang Chen did not make a request, but asked a question first. This question was closely related to Yang Chen, because Li Qingchen of the Taishanmen and Chu Heng found people to kill Yang Chen. At that time, the law enforcement hall palace master was furious and asked Su Qingxin to negotiate. The Taishanmen apologized to you and Chunyang Palace for the heaven stairway. The palace master did not expect Yang Chen to ask this. He was stunned for a moment before replying, the Taishanmen have removed Qing Wenkai from all duties in the sect and voluntarily compensated Chunyang Palace with the 2 quotas for the heaven stairway gathering next year. In addition, for the 19 Jidan stage masters who plotted against you when you were climbing the heaven stairway, all the sects involved have also compensated. The palace mistress attached great importance to this matter, so she was very clear about the details. There is a flying sword, 16 different kinds of pills, an alchemy furnace, and a piece of undying wood. The palace master attached great importance to this matter, so the details were very clear. There is a flying sword, 16 kinds of medicinal pills, an alchemy furnace, and a piece of immortal wood. I received a reply not long ago. You are still in retreat, so the sect agreed on your behalf. As for Li Qingchen sending people to kill you, the palace master paused and seemed to want Yang Chen to be mentally prepared. The Taishanmen mean that this is a personal grievance between you and Li Qingchen. The Taishanmen will not come forward to protect you. You can find Li Qingchen at any time to solve this personal grievance, and the 2 sect will not interfere. Are you satisfied with this? Satisfied, Yang Chen was certainly satisfied. The Taishanmen not only had to bear the loss of 4 Jidan stage masters, but also had to apologize and give up the quota. This kind of apology could be seen by the whole world. How could Yang Chen not be satisfied? Even if Yang Chen could not get any substantial benefits, Yang Chen was also very satisfied, not to mention that there were still a lot of things to get. A small Qiankuan bag appeared in the hands of the palace master. It was obviously filled with the compensation, but he did not directly hand it to Yang Chen. Instead he asked, the sect took your things. Naturally, they will not take it in vain. What conditions do you want? I will follow the arrangement of the palace master. Yang Chen immediately retreated and left everything to the palace master to decide. Obviously, if the palace master did not come up with some enough benefits, his own master ancestor, Gao Yu's master, Elder Wang Yong, would not agree. This also showed that he was not greedy for rewards and left a better impression on the upper echelons of the sect. The Penglai divine wood is really rare. In that case, I will give you a few choices. The palace master did not push Yang Chen. He was used to giving orders and had his own bearing. After a little thought, he immediately had a solution. You are a fire cultivator. The pure yang true fire collected by the Chunyang Palace for generations cannot be passed on to outsiders except for the sect master or the elders. I will grant you the identity of a true disciple and give you the pure yang true fire. Or, I have a black flame crystal stone in the Chunyang Palace. Although it is not as precious as the Penglai divine wood, it is also a fire attribute treasure. It is the best material for refining the flying sword. The insufficient part can be made up with spirit stones. You can choose these too. Hearing the words of the palace master, Yang Chen was overjoyed. The palace master even allowed him to choose between the pure yang true fire and the black flame crystal. For Yang Chen, did he still need to consider? This disciple chooses the pure yang true fire. Almost without thinking about it, Yang Chen chose the pure yang true fire. It must be known that this was a higher level of fire than the true sunfire. Only the core fire cultivators of the Chunyang Palace had a chance to get involved, and only a chance. The pure yang true fire was overbearing. Even the masters of the Yuanying stage were not necessarily able to absorb and refine it. In the memory of Yang Chen in his previous life, there was almost no pure yang true fire in the mortal world and the spiritual world. Only some fire cultivators in the immortal world would occasionally have a few. It was also rare and very rare. In the Chunyang Palace, only the founder had the pure yang true fire, which was also the origin of the name of the Chunyang Palace. No disciple of the younger generation had refined it. Later, the Chunyang Palace was destroyed, and the fire of the pure yang true fire was destroyed by the palace master at the last moment. From then on, there was no pure yang true fire in the mortal world. In his previous life, Yang Chen was not qualified to touch the pure yang true fire. Even if he was qualified, he did not have the strength to refine it. But in this life, this opportunity was placed in front of him, which made Yang Chen overjoyed. You have to think about it. The palace master seemed to have a glimmer of hope for Yang Chen. After the founder, no one had refined the pure yang true fire. In the Chunyang Palace, it had almost become a decoration. Yang Chen's level of fire control was obvious to all. Maybe he could inherit the pure yang true fire and develop the pure yang great way. Looking forward to it in his heart, the palace master still reminded Yang Chen, pure yang true fire may not be able to refine it until you ascend. As long as you reach the Jedon realm, you can refine it. Do you still want to choose the pure yang true fire? This disciple chooses the pure yang true fire. Yang Chen replied firmly again, regardless of the elder's raised eyebrows and the anxious eyes of his master Gaoyu. Good. The palace master stared at Yang Chen for a while. After confirming that Yang Chen was not joking, he turned his hand and a square transparent box appeared in his hand. The box was covered with various talisman formations. Through the transparent box, a dazzling white light group filled the whole box, constantly flashing. Welcome to Legends of Cultivation, audiobooks, where we bring ancient fantasy to life through storytelling. Follow the rise of heroes who defy fate, unlock mystical powers, and battle across celestial realms. Our audiobooks are crafted for fans of Chinese cultivation novels, filled with battles, breakthroughs, and legendary artifacts. Subscribe and be part of an unforgettable journey into the realm of immortality.